Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Laureli Shimayo. This is the MeWe Awakening panel for energizing body, mind, heart, and soul. We have events throughout the Northwest and online. Clearly, this is one of our online events. This is an awakening panel on disentangling from toxic relationships. There are 6 practitioners that are here tonight. We'll be going around to share a bit about ourselves and our practices. And then what do you all want? Should we talk about the disentangling from toxic relationships at the same time? Or should we go back around? Maybe let's just talk about ourselves and our modalities briefly, so about 2 minutes, and then we'll go around afterwards and talk about disentangling from toxic relationships, so people get to know a sense of who we are, separate from this too. All right, great. Let's see what order, and we've got more people coming. It's great. All right. Well, let's see. Let's go ahead. Maybe we'll go in the order I've got here. So we'll have Dr. Tina share first, and then Laurie. Yeah, so go ahead, take a couple of minutes and share about you and just all of your different modalities and what you do. I'm going to get you pinned also. We get a number of us pinned here to the front just before we start. And get Sharon up here also. And we've got a creature that's joining us on the call too. Beautiful. All right, let me go find Thorne. Okay, great. All right, so go ahead, Dr. Tina, and then Laurie. So Dr. Tina, go ahead, take a couple minutes.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tina. I'm a holistic brain health practitioner. I use a neuroscience meets ancient wisdom approach to help clients thrive. I use methods such as the emotion code and the body code to identify underlying imbalances that people are struggling with. I have a background in neuroscience and epidemiology, so I do use Western medicine. I apply that to energy medicine. Another powerful technique that I use is vibrational medicine, and I channel frequencies to help with all kinds of regenerative things like breaking up blood clots and breaking up scar tissue, as well as getting nerves generating. It's pretty crazy and wild. So that's what I do in general, but I'm also very passionate about this topic because of my own experience with such personalities. And so I'm grateful to be offering my wisdom and from what I've learned, because I've learned so much from what I've been through.
Great, thanks, Dr. Tina. And I guess if you've got a little bit more time, if you want to explain anything about how your modalities work or how you might be using different things tonight, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. You know, I should also mention a bit about the crystals. I make bracelets and so forth. And so one of the offers I have today is that I have a line of my crystals. They're called Vitality Stones. And I have a line called Protect Stones because of my own challenges, not only with challenging people, but also autoimmunity and feeling like, okay, the world is beating up on me. So one of the things I talk about is EMF, the dangers of EMF and how to protect yourself. And so I saw shungite around that. And then I have bracelets for radiation. I have bracelets for pollution. And I also have, I can custom make bracelets for dealing with toxic energies, for example. So that we generate those energies to sort of counteract the energies that you get. And energies are very, very powerful. It's a whole talk that I can give, but basically, if you think about the difference between an alive person and dead person, that the body, we still have a body, but it's the spark in the machine that matters, right? And that spark in the machine is energy, which can be induced by frequencies. So those frequencies are programs to help determine the expression of tissues or our whole body and how we behave or show up. So that's the essence of energy. I also use the emotion code and the body code, which is about identifying the root causes. And I'm very passionate about that because I have a background in neuroscience and epidemiology, which is about finding root causes. And I'm very good at getting down and zeroing in on the precise problem that people are struggling with and then releasing them with energy medicine.
Great, thank you so much, Dr. Tina. All right, go ahead, Laurie.
Hi, I'm Laurie from Laurie's Angelic Guidance and Intuitive Healing. I use many different modalities. I'm a theta practitioner, a Seraphim blueprint healer, and a Reiki master. So I use all 3 of those modalities to tap into your inner child, see what emotions need to be released, what kind of energy work your body may require. And I find there's a lot of main emotions and things like that from our childhood that are pretty much on topic with this. They're pretty common. So I like to release those, but I also like to download you with positives and the opposite of what you're releasing, so that we fill that void instead of we're still looking for something else and searching for, we'll come back to what it was if we don't put something positive back in. So I do that, as well as I have a group on Facebook called Tears and Healing from My Narcissistic Wounds. I too have a journey with narcissism. My mother was a narcissist and I also married one. So I have my own journey on narcissism. So I hope to be able to help you with any of that tonight. And I look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Laurie. And actually, Laurie, did you want to say anything about the angels, the seraphim angels? A lot of people are not familiar with them.
The seraphim angels are the closest to God, and they're actually his messengers. So he's the one, they're the ones that actually speak to God. They will work on your behalf with God. And they're the angels that started this healing modality that I do, the Seraphim Blueprint. Back in Atlantis times is when it was originally created by them. There was originally 13 angels, and as anything, there's always conflict and whatnot. So now we're down to one, and they really want to get this healing modality out there. So that's why the Seraphim Blueprint has been it's regained its popularity again in 1990s. It was also brought back by the Jewish in around the 40s or so. And then it was lost for a while. Now it's been brought back again by Ruth Rendelay. And yeah, it's an amazing healing. It's very gentle, but very powerful. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Laurie. All right, and let's see. And we've got then Thorne, the Shift Witch, and Sally. All right, let's make sure everyone's ready to go. Mel, are you all set?
I am. Okay, great. Yeah. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Hello, everyone. My name is Thorne. I'm here from Portland, Oregon. I use they, he pronouns. My different modalities that I utilize to work with people: tarot cards, runes. I do energy work, intuitive work, and coaching. Life coaching, one-on-one with individuals as needed. And I utilize all of those modalities when I work with clients. I offer support with how to get out or release people from toxic relationships, and really looking at the patterns and the vibrations that one finds themselves getting stuck in. Like many people here on the panel, I too have had experiences in toxic relationships, and I bring my experiences and I share that to support people to see which patterns aren't working for them anymore and how to get out of them. I use a lot of empathic work to do that. I'm excited to be part of this discussion tonight and to see where things go. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Thorne. And I realize also I installed rev.com, but it looks like I haven't figured out how to get it going properly. So I think it's not on at the moment, and I may work on that later today. All right.
Thank you. That's fine.
One moment. Okay, thank you, everyone. Sorry about that. All right, and then the Shift Witch, and then Sally. So go ahead, the Shift Witch.
Thank you. Hi, I am the Shift Witch with Compassionate Coaching, and I help you make shifts so radical they must be magical. I do this through a variety of modalities, including belly dancing, yoga, life coaching, and sound healing. I just like to employ whatever works best for you, because the same type of healing doesn't work for every person, because we're all different. And all of the different relationships that we have in our life can be very different as well. So each relationship that we may be dealing with today that is toxic is going to be completely different from one person to another. So unraveling all of those different parts and finding yourself underneath is what I do best. Really bringing out who you are authentically in this moment, and then loving that person just as you are without trying to change anything about you because an outside influence says you need to be different, because you don't. So I deal in radical self-love, in how to make your life the one you want to craft for yourself rather than the one that was crafted for you, and finding your happiness and not anyone else's, just yours. Tonight, I am offering a special on my intake sessions. They will be $35, which is about 20% off. And you can find me at theshiftwitch.com or theshiftwitch@gmail.com if you would like to email me directly. I'm really glad you're all here tonight. I really look forward to sharing my story, and especially to hearing everyone else's stories and finding out how we can best help each of you move through these difficult relationships that you may be encountering right now. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you to the ASL interpreters for being here as well. I really appreciate them being here. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Sally.
Hi, my name is Sally with Sally's Spiritual Guidance. I'm an intuitive tarot oracle card reader as well as a psychic medium. I also use pendulums and charms with my readings, which I didn't mention before, but occasionally I will throw them in, depending on what kind of questions the querent has or the person that's getting the reading has. In terms of the toxic relationships, I have not had personal experience with that, but I have had a lot of people come to me for that. And what I try to do is focus the shift on more of the person and what they need to do in order to, release that person, or what they need to do to work on themselves, more than the focus on the actual person. That, because a lot of times we want to know, is this person coming back? What's this person doing? But what we really need to worry about is more of ourselves and what we need to do to break free from that person. Because if we, I think like the shift which said, we have to kind of work on ourselves, and we can't really worry about other people to bring us the happiness that we need. So I use my readings for that. I do mediumship readings as well, which have helped with relationships, because just being around the people that you love, that you're not able to be around anymore physically, helps, I think, sometimes to release patterns, to let go of people, to kind of get your self-love back and your self-worth back. So those readings actually can help with relationships tremendously, which has been very surprising for me. Just doing a medium reading, thinking I'm going to bring a spirit through, and then it turns into an entirely different reading. So just all different kinds of modalities. Like I said, the charms, the pendulums, if there's yes, no questions, will be very helpful. The oracle cards are very good for asking ourselves what we need to work on and giving us advice. The tarot is good for kind of telling us what might happen and what has happened and what we can change. So it's just really interesting to kind of pull them all together and see what I can do to help people improve their situations, or, their self-love, or even just bringing a connection with their loved ones. And that's it. Thank you. Oh, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram on Sally Spiritual Guidance, or you can email me at mamasallyspiritgirl@gmail.com. Thanks.
Great. And I'm Laureli Shimayo. I'm an intuitive eye reader and body psychology coach. I'm also a matchmaker, relationship coach. So I believe that we all read eyes all the time. Part of the magic of how we find dysfunctional relationships over and over again is because we're reading so much in people's eyes, kind of like it's painted on our forehead. It really is. It's like so clear. We see these things about each other, and however we experience love as kids is our brains are often wired with that being love. And so we go looking for that over and over. So I help people realize what their patterns are and shift their patterns and make conscious choices. When I read your eyes, I'm reading the energy of your soul. Like eyes are a window to the soul. And I think that we all read eyes all the time. You can imagine when you meet someone with dark sunglasses and you can't see their eyes, so much is missing. And as soon as you see their eyes, so much is there. I interpret what I see in your eyes with a set of archetypes that I call thrive types, archetypes for thriving. My aim is to help you get to know you better, get to know your beauty as well as your shadows and your lessons. I get to know your beauty and the greatness that you share. It's often invisible to us. The more we appreciate and love ourselves, the easier we are with honoring ourselves, the easier it is in all of our relationships. So I aim to describe you so you better understand yourself better. And if you show me photos of others, I can share about them and talk about the relationships between you and how to make things work better. And then with matchmaking, I can help you choose people. For romance or hiring, I use this work to help you find people that are a great fit for whatever it is you're wanting to do together. And body psychology work, it includes, so part of it is awareness of the body. So being more aware of your body and the messages that your body is giving you so that you can respond in the moment. And then also you're able to be free flowing and follow those impulses and follow what your body's wanting. There are all sorts of ways of disentangling things through the body psychology. And then also there are a number of, so there's body movements and different affirmation thoughts and things like that. And then also there are different models for understanding ourselves and our relationship dynamics, like the drama triangle. So I'm sure I'll be sharing more about all those tonight. So intuitive eye readings and body psychology are the primary ways that I work with people, and I'm excited to be here with you. Just practitioners, anything else you want to jump in about your modalities and just some basics about you before we go on to the next round? Okay, just checking. Sometimes when we hear each other, we're like, oh yeah, I could have said that. I could have said that. Yeah, we're excited to have you all with us. This is great. So I have put some information in the chat. I'll put it in the chat again. It's free to be here to listen and learn tonight. We're all holding the space together, being in this together with each other. And if you'd like to ask a question of the panel, it's a small price. It's $16 to $24 sliding scale, and it's $10 for BIPOC. You can pay with PayPal or Venmo. If those don't work, you can text me. My number's in the chat too, and I can put it through Square on my phone. And I know we've got one person in line already, and hopefully we'll get more people in line. Sometimes not until we start answering questions, right, do more people get in line. Lately, our panels have been very full and we've been running out of space to answer all the questions. So if you know you want to ask a question, I encourage you to get in line. After you pay, please write in the chat and let me know that you paid so I make sure to get you in line quickly. All right, well, we're gonna have the practitioners go around and share a little bit more about the theme now, and more of us are entering. So the theme tonight is disentangling from toxic relationships. So we're all passionate about this, have specialties in this in some ways. Yeah, and by the way, you can actually ask a question about anything. I think that you heard from the diversity on the panel, just the range of modalities we work with, and we answer questions on anything. So the theme tonight is disentangling from toxic relationships, and we'll share more about that, and we'll probably have more questions about that. And we'll talk about anything. So any question you have tonight, feel free. All right, well, let's see. I guess we'll go ahead in the same order. So which one of you? I think I know who is, but I think it's Dr. Tina's first, and then Dr. Tina, and then Laurie. All right, go ahead, Dr. Tina. Take like a minute. Yeah. Go ahead.
How much? A minute or two? Okay. Well, I'll share a little bit about my journey. I grew up with some parents that were rather challenging. I had a very critical father who was constantly criticizing. I never felt like I was ever good enough. And I was always walking on eggshells around him. It was kind of like an angeraholic. And I didn't understand what was going on. My sister was, between my parents, both of my parents, my sister was always the favored one. And I was always conceived as the bad child. And it didn't make sense to me because I was a good student. Outside of home, I wasn't seen as being a bad kid at all in any way or form. But at home, for some reason, my parents just seemed to think that I was just a horrible person in so many different ways. And my self-esteem was horrible. I just, it was in the pits, and didn't understand why. You know, I was always being compared against my sister, and she was always the better one in every way or form. And it took me decades really to figure out what was going on. You know, I tried to understand my own depression, my own anxiety. I had learning disabilities as well. And and nothing really made sense. I was like, my dad, he's kind of like an alcoholic, but he doesn't drink alcohol. It doesn't make sense, right? Until just a few years ago, when I had a series of, I was living alone and the rent went way up and I had to find housemates, and I had a series of housemates that educated me, each one of them, not intentionally, but by talking to others and processing with others, I learned about these sociopathic personality disorders. So I learned about narcissistic personality disorder. I learned about borderline, which is not seen to be a sociopathic, but there's a lot of challenges in dealing with relationships like that. I learned about just variations on that. And of course, we've had, I'm going to just say, we've had a president that, is known as a malignant narcissist, and that's been very educational. And so in understanding these diagnoses, the more I've learned, the better I am able to protect myself and to tell clients what they are actually dealing with. And it's been super helpful, because once you realize that you are not the problem, that, and to some degree, I mean, we do need to own up to our end of the problem. Our end of the problem is that we're attracted to these people, right? And that we feed that narcissistic supply inadvertently, but we're not intentionally doing that. But once we can become educated and we understand what we're dealing with, then we can understand the patterns and we can step back and go, oh, how am I feeding this relationship? So it's really useful to understand those patterns. And then you start to know, okay, how am I presenting myself in the way that a narcissist wants to manipulate, right? It's because the sociopathic personality disorders are predatory, and they intentionally are, and there's, most of us are not like this. Most of us who are attracted to these people are empaths, and we see their good. We only want to see their good. And that's the problem, because these people actually don't need that. They need boundaries. So this is what I've learned over the years in reading so many books and helping so many clients and getting to the root causes, and really getting to a place where I feel like I can now identify these sociopathic personality disorders, so that I do feel protected, and I know what to avoid, and I know how to step back very immediately before I get entangled in such relationships. So I'm delighted to share my wisdom in any way that I can, and thank you for hearing me out.
This is Mel. I just want to go ahead and say we're going to switch interpreters now. Thank you.
Great, thanks. All right, Laurie's next. Go ahead, Laurie.
Hi, I was raised by a narcissist. I didn't realize my mother was a narcissist until I actually married a narcissist, and I did my own healing afterwards, that I realized I was actually raised by one. And broken people go for broken people. We don't know any different, right? Until we learn and heal, like Dr. Tina said, till we do our own healing. So in my journey of learning and whatnot, I had looked to see what my ex would have been like as a parent. And that's when I went, oh my goodness, because things did not sit right with me about my mother. She took me away from all my supports at a very young age. So I didn't know any different. I only knew her. So in learning, I found out that she was definitely a narcissist. And I found this wonderful website online. At the time, it no longer exists, that I have now named my group after, which is Tears and Healing from Narcissistic Wounds. And so in my process of healing, I also kept attracting narcissists into my life, whether it be friends, partners, what have you, until, like Dr. Tina says, you actually heal yourself enough to go, no, and you put up boundaries and you start saying no, which is very hard for a lot of us empaths to do, because we always want to help everyone. So that was my biggest journey, was saying no, setting my boundaries, setting my limits, and looking at what I'm inviting into my life, and learning the difference of valuing what I have and what I bring to the table, as opposed to how I can help. So now it's about having healthy boundaries, healthy relationships, and being able to say no, and walking away with my head up high, not feeling guilty and not feeling bad about it. So I'm hoping that tonight we can all help you guys with some of your questions, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Laurie. All right, we've got Thorne next, and then the Shift Witch, and then Sally. Thorne, are you all set to go?
I am gonna set up my view a little bit better so I can see Thorne better. 1 second.
Sure. Take it.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I have experienced many different type of relationships, toxic relationships, narcissistic relationships, negative ones. I am an empath and a highly sensitive person myself, and I'm drawn to that energy and their vibrations. And especially the last few years, it has been a tough journey to step back, to see how boundaries work, where they need to be, how I can move my boundaries when needed, to also accept myself and being willing again to say no, and to follow and trust my internal feelings of saying no, that how fear should work for me to have those healthy boundaries. And being able to follow my own intuition has helped me increase my ability to have those boundaries. And you guys, the journey is hard. It is not simple. But I had to have self-compassion and to really learn what that means. Even if you have empathy and you're highly sensitive, you still have to be able to step back to see, what is my role in this? Why am I wanting to help this person? Why am I feeling drawn and connected to this person? Is it serving me? Is it good for me? Is there a way that I can still be in a relationship that is healthy for me? And basically learning how to have filters and different tools to screen for these toxic relationships that naturally I am drawn to. And learning those tools is very important. Again, I have personal experience with these toxic relationships and needing to figure out how to get out of them, how to disentangle from them. And the more tools you have, the more self-awareness and growth and coaching really is having that support helps guide people on their journey of disentanglement from those relationships and working to get out. And then it becomes their own choice. It's an empowered decision. And it is a bit of a shift to think of oneself first and not the other. A lot of us are conditioned to think of others and their needs before our own. And to realize that I am not responsible for others' decisions and choices, and there are consequences of their own decisions. But when you're in these relationships, you forget all that, don't you? You kind of need that outside coaching to kind of shine the mirror for you. And I think that's kind of what we do, is we kind of hold up that mirror gently to help people to see where these relationships are, to see what's working for them, to see where their boundaries are, and to help guide them in getting those healthy boundaries. So I'm excited to be here tonight and also learn from everybody and have these discussions.
Thanks so much, Thorne. All right, go ahead, Shift Witch, and then Sally.
Hi, everyone. So my toxic relationship was actually my stepfather and my birth father. And I say birth father because he left when I was a week old and had very little to no impact on my life until about teenage years, when he actually sent in my 16th birthday card that he never wanted me. And then it sort of kept going from there. And as a kid, you want that parent to want you. And my stepfather was just a psycho screamer. He was just angry all the time. He is and still is, I'm sure, somewhere in the world, a very narcissistic human being. My birth father, though, through the deep curiosity to wanting to know more about myself, I kept pursuing him and trying to learn more about what I thought I should say, learn more about myself through that. And of course, that never worked out. And finally, after 30 some years of this going on, I finally realized that if I wanted a good parenting experience, that I was going to have to give it to myself. And that's exactly what I did. It's just reparented myself. I gave myself what I was missing from the outside, or what I felt like I was missing from the outside. And like many of the other panelists have already said, boundaries, so beautiful. They're absolutely necessary, especially when you are an empath, because you just want to fix and make things better. And everyone has their own sovereignty. You cannot and should not change other people. You can and should only work on your view of the world, yourself, your interactions in the world, because that is the only thing that you have any control over. So it took me a long time to come to that realization, but I feel so much better having done so. And it is an incredibly freeing experience to be able to provide yourself with all of the love that you need. Because then when you meet other people who are in that same situation, it does nothing but lift you both up, which is where we all want to be. So thank you for being here tonight. And I really look forward to hearing your stories and being able to help in whatever way I can.
Thanks so much, Shipwitch. All right, Sally.
Hi. So again, I haven't had a lot of personal experience with toxic relationships or narcissists. I have had many men with the gaslighting thing, which I think is just as bad, where, you know, they try to make you feel like you're doing something wrong, or, you know, I guess it is like a narcissistic thing too, but it's more like a gaslighting thing for me. That's the kind of men I seem to attract. I also seem to attract a lot of men who just wanted casual relationships or friends with benefits. So, and when I had children very young, and I was single pretty quickly. So I didn't really want relationships. So I kind of tended to gravitate towards those men. But what I found to be really important is trying to figure out when it's okay and it works for you well, and when it doesn't, you know, when your feelings start to get involved, and then when it becomes toxic in that way where someone is feeling more than the other person. So I think for me, toxicity in a relationship has a lot of different meanings. It can be two people that are really great people, but just not good together. You know, they want different things, but they're so dependent and they keep being drawn to each other, knowing that the other person doesn't want what they want. And so then they're not happy because they're with somebody that, like, they want to have kids and the other person doesn't, you know, but they think that person's going to change. So they just keep going back to that same person over and over again. So that can be toxicity. Two really awesome people that just don't work together. One person is a little lazy, you know, and the other person can be lazy too. And together they just don't, you know, evolve into the people that they should be, where if maybe they were with somebody that was a little bit more, you know, ambitious, that it would work better together. So that's, for me, the kind of toxicity I see. And people think that they're completely happy together. And sometimes it takes another person, especially like in a reading, someone will come to me and they're happy, but I'm thinking, well, if you're coming to me for a reading, you're probably not really happy, but okay, we'll go with that. And then we dig deeper into the relationship and we realize they're really not happy, you know, and then it gets into all different levels, like if someone's married or someone, you know, there's just so many different levels of toxicity. And it's so hard once you have those feelings for someone, like this whole disentangling, it's so hard once you have feelings for that person to let that go, you know, and you just keep thinking, well, if they just change, but if I just hold on for another year, he's going to grow up and he's going to mature. She's going to do this. And it's like, no, they're not. But so like, for me, toxicity comes in all different levels. And I even see it, you know, with people that they think they're completely happy, and you just step back and you just think, but are you really happy? So to say like I've never been in a toxic relationship, it's just I haven't been in a lot of relationships. So that's probably why. Again, I have just always had my kids and it's to the point now where I don't even think I know how to have a relationship. So that's probably toxic, I mean, there's just all kinds of levels. So that's really my experience, is that I don't have a lot of personal, but I am the person that everyone always came to. Even before I did readings and cards, everyone would come to me. That's why I had the name Mama Sally for so long, because everyone came to me for advice and they felt like I was this motherly person. And so I learned a lot about relationships from other people, actually, and I felt, well, I didn't really need one after that. So yeah, that's been my experience. And I'm just looking forward to hearing all the different stories and to see what I can get from the cards and try to, my intuitive messages, and see how I can help. And thank you for having me.
Great, thank you. I love what you've all shared, and there's just like so much to share about this. So let me give it a bit here before we get specific questions. I shared a little already. One of the models I love to use about this is the drama triangle. I don't know if you've all heard of it. It was created in the 1960s, I think, by Stephen Cartman. So it's an old model, and it describes essentially all the drama we get in. The hero, the victim, and the villain are the three roles. And so pretty much anything that's not going well, we can see how we're playing out in the triangle with ourselves or with others. Usually a person jumps in the triangle first, and then it's a temptation. Jump in with me. And it's our choice to jump in with them. We don't necessarily fully realize it's a choice, but our jumping in, some part of us wants to jump in and wants to play. And when we can find that and grieve that that's been our pattern, typically grieve that that part of us is wanting that, and love and accept that part of us that's taking care of us the best it can, that's our opportunity to allow things to shift and open. So I love that model. I use a model of 5 feelings, and being able to feel them and express them is important. Often for empaths, we talk about narcissism, and the empath that feels caught and at the victim of the narcissist is where we're not fully experiencing our anger and knowing how to set boundaries for ourselves. So it goes back to feelings again, and I differentiate between anger and aggression, and that may come up tonight. So my mom, I knew, had bipolar. I realized that when I was still a teenager. We didn't call it, and it was manic depressive then. And I was clearly the super caretaker, totally doing hero of my mom. And she did end her life in my 20s. And that was a big journey for me. I didn't realize, though, how much narcissism was part of my family of origin until much, much later. Not until I was learning about it, because I don't know where it started when I first started to see it, but when I started to see it, I had a tenant that was narcissistic and was doing a whole bunch of gaslighting and was a mess. And then eventually I realized my ex-husband was narcissistic. I've dated women since then, and some of the women I've dated have been narcissistic. I've had bosses that were narcissistic. And I think of this as a continuum. And there's like, the super clearly toxic narcissist that would probably be, diagnosed. And I'm not a psychologist. I'm not officially diagnosing, but I think of it as a continuum, and there's behavior in here. And so not apologizing is part of that. Gaslighting is part of it. Just like naming reality as a form of gaslighting to me, and controlling. So then there's also a slippery slope of when is it narcissism and when is it just someone is self-centered? When is it that they're slippery and manipulative and just unconscious? And so it's all kinds of these pieces tied up together. Oh, what did I want to say? Oh yeah, so leaders of spiritual communities I've been part of have been narcissistic, and just so many pieces of things I could say. I guess the big thing is, I'm still recognizing, so my grandmother was narcissistic, and my grandmother helped raise me until I was about like 10, 11, probably 11 when she finally moved out. She definitely was very cruel, never apologized, never responsible for things, like did not own her responsibility in the family. Like it just, everyone was there to take care of her. And she has some of the archetypes that are very powerful and judgmental too, and not very, very conscious. So I'm still seeing all of where this is played out. And then I say part of what's so important for us to know, like for those of us that grow up with narcissistic families, I think we often either become narcissists ourselves or we are more the empathic flavor. And even for those of us that are more empathic, sometimes in some situations, more narcissistic elements come out. And I just think it's so important that we keep looking for ourselves. Like, so I look and I get feedback sometimes when I'm being self-centered, like, oh, is this showing up in me? And the more that I can look at that and question that, not in a compulsive way, it's that fluidity that allows me to know I'm not getting caught in that. Yeah. I think those are the big things that I wanted to get across and share. Just so much to say about this. And I study with a number of somatic psychotherapists. And so it's all that work that I blend together for the body psychology. And I'm just excited of how we can bring this in tonight and be supportive of people. Yeah, it's great having all of us together, right? Not all of us have so much personal history. Or what did I leave out? Yeah, lots and lots of things. All right. Yeah, the narcissistic boss. Exactly. Oh, the choice. And I say, as little kids, our job is to get love and attention. So no matter what happens, no matter how hard and toxic it is, no matter how physically abusive, emotionally abusive, we end up wiring in our brains that that's love. And we end up going out and choosing that over and over again. We're so good at seeing it in other people. And the whole journey is recognizing our patterns and loving ourselves the way that other people couldn't love us. And right, expressing our anger, honoring our boundaries, and oh, I don't want that anymore, and going some other direction. All right. Well, that's us and all that we're going to be covering tonight. It's a lot. And I've got a couple of questions in line. One person, I'm not certain who it is, who's first in line, lives life. I don't know who you are. Are you here? I know this person.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, great. All right. All right. Come on.
We're going to change interpreters.
Okay, great. And I want to say a couple things just before we start on the first question. So keep in mind that this is recorded, and anything that you, when you ask a question, we may go deeper than you intend for us to go, or that you want us going in this call. We may start talking about other areas of your life, your work, your relationships, anything that, right, for us is related, but it's not what you intended and not what you want us to talk about. So please give us feedback. Jump out and say something and cut us off, or wave your hands to get our attention right in the chat. Anything that's needed to help us see you and honor you, whatever it is that you want for us to do tonight. And then we believe that everyone's intuitive. So please, everyone, use this as an opportunity to learn from all that is asked and all that is answered. And if something comes through you, you might want to write it down so it doesn't disappear. And then also, please, if you could allow the attention to stay up on the panel tonight, that's what, right, for this experience, that's what we've come for. And then if you want, when we're done answering someone's question, if you want to, you can write them in private chat and ask them if they'd like to hear what came through you for them, that you're thinking might be for them. And please honor whatever their response is. If they say no, please trust that they may be just full after receiving from all of us, and trust that it came through you for another reason. And then I'm going to put the information in the chat again, just about all the practitioners that are here tonight. This is recorded and it'll be on YouTube. We definitely have space for people to ask more questions. If you'd like to ask a question, there's information on how to pay in the chat. And please, anyone that's willing, if you can share some donations to help pay the interpreters tonight too, that would be great. That's an extra expense that we take for this event. We love having Thorne here, and we love being able to reach so many more of you. And it is a greater expense for us. So please, if you can contribute to that, either as a separate donation or adding a little bit more onto your payment for the question, that would be great. All right. All right, Christina, what is your question?
I don't really know exactly if it's how to explain it. I saw that you had this offering, and I'm like, okay, I need to join that. So I definitely was in my marriage was definitely with a narcissistic man. I mean, he was diagnosed narcissist. And I've really been working in the last few years on setting boundaries and ending relationships with people that are not good for me. And I'm kind of grieving a couple of relationships with girlfriends, not platonic friends that were bad relationships. And some of my more healthy relationships with my friends are people have moved. So I'm like in this, and my mother has narcissistic tendencies, and I'm in this enmeshed sort of relationship with her. But I'm just feeling very, very lonely with having my healthy relationships be farther away, and yeah, I don't really know what the question is, I guess.
Well, if I can just ask one thing that might help you clarify. So if your life looked like the way you wanted it to look, and this is actually a little bit of like a feedback here too. If your life looked like you wanted it to look, what would that be?
If my life looked the way I wanted it to be?
In terms of relationships, yeah, you talked about friendships and dating. What would it be?
Well, I mean, as far as a romantic relationship, I want to be with a man that's pursuing me as much as I am pursuing him, and where I am sometimes the center of attention, because as an empath, I'm like, I end up like being very emotionally available for them, and they're not emotionally available for me. As far as my friendships go, I just feel like my friends are there for me, but they're not close to me. I mean, they're not close in proximity. And I have trouble setting. I want to be able to be more firm with my mother. And she's very much a matriarch in my family, so I'm really working on setting boundaries with her.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing that. That was great. All right. So practitioners, if you are ready to answer, raise your hand in the Zoom software. That's the best way for me to know that you're ready. All right, Sally, go ahead. Oh, and we're going to aim to take like no more than like 20 minutes per answer. So just sharing the time with each other, and not everyone has to answer every question, but hopefully, we have time and we can. Go ahead, Sally.
Okay, so I just pulled some cards while you were talking, and I got Alchemy, Courage, and Cycles. So this is telling you that you have to let go of all the negativity. I get the feeling that you just don't have enough courage or self-esteem to kind of let go and to move forward. And the cycles card came up as well, which tells me that you just keep going in the same cycles. Like you said, you just keep meeting the same people. You keep going back to the same type of person. So this is really telling you that you have the ability to break free from these patterns, but you just have to believe that you can do it. And have the courage to take the steps that you need to take in order to do it, and to let go of the negativity. Is talking about meditation, inner work, getting peace within yourself. That's what these cards are talking about. And I just love this card too. It's just so pretty. It's breaking those cycles. It's breaking the monotony of this, what you keep doing over and over again. That's what these cards are telling you. So does anyone else have anything else to say?
Yeah,
does that resonate at all, or does that make sense to you, or?
Yes and no.
Well,
because
I have and leave the parts that don't. I would say take the parts that make sense and leave the parts that don't. Whatever you were able to get out of it, that's what you should, go with.
I think some of the other practitioners too will probably say things that link in.
Yeah, might click.
So maybe we can use it at the end too.
Yeah, I'll let them go.
So go ahead. We've got the Shift Witch and then Laurie. Go ahead, Shift Witch.
Hi, Christina. So a couple of things that stood out when you were talking was specifically when you were talking about your mother and that she is the matriarch of the family, and that using that phrasing puts a lot of pressure on especially the child, you, in feeling that their needs cannot be expressed because you have to, all of these phrases, respect your elders, honor the matriarch of the family. There's just all of this baggage that goes along with that. And it's learning that to honor yourself is not disrespecting somebody else. So that is a very key thing. So for instance, my mother likes to do well, I know how busy you are, or thank you for calling, just things like that that are subversively manipulative. And
right.
Sometimes they're not subversively manipulative. Sometimes why? Well, I haven't talked to you for a month, but I didn't want to bother you. So that's the other big phrase that we will tend to hear. And so it is about realizing that so those phrases, they hurt because that's what they're trying to do, is get a reaction from you. So what is happening is that you need to do your best to create a boundary that is very clear on that is not about you. You have not been a bad daughter. You are busy. You do have your own life. And, you know, all of these expectations and things are not yours. They are hers. And to understand that if she gets upset, that is completely her emotion to deal with and not yours.
Right.
She is the parent after all. So it is not easy. I'm not going to act like it is. I still deal with it every phone call I have, but I have also gotten to the point where when I hang up, it's done. And I don't spend the next hour going, what did she mean by that? Or should I call her again? You know, all of that sort of stuff. So that's, I would say like that's sort of the place you want to reach, because unless you completely want to shut off communication, which it doesn't sound like you do, you just want to be honored as much as you give that honor to her, that, you know, you just have to find that boundary that works for you, that allows you to still be yourself and have and honor yourself while not allowing her to manipulate you beyond that second of, you know, the thank you for calling us, don't want to bother you, you know, and just sort of let
Right.
that stuff fall off of you as best you can. And like I said, I know it's not easy. I truly do. But talking with other people, first of all, is huge. Coming to something like this and realizing that this is a thing and you're not alone, and finding
Yeah.
other people. Like, this is a great place to find other people that, you know, you may um, have a lot in common with, especially empathy. So, you
Yeah.
know, even though we're not maybe physically near each other, these events are here to help us support each other in that way. So
Right.
hope that
Yeah. I mean, I'm dating a really good guy, right? He's a pretty good guy right now, but
good.
like, I don't see that long term. And he's an atheist. And that's not going to be fit. So
Yeah, and as long
definitely
as
something
you
like
know
this is
that,
what?
yeah, and if you knowing that and that you're clear about that is wonderful. Like, so the expectations, you already understand the expectations. You're not making it something that it can't be for you. So that's fantastic.
Mm,
But you're also allowed to enjoy it right now.
yes.
Yeah.
Great. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Great. We got Laurie and then Thorne.
Hi, Christina. I just wanted to speak to the piece where you were talking about your friends and everything going. Actually, hooray, good for you, because it tells me you're starting your healing journey. It tells me that you're starting to make those proper choices for yourself. And it can be very lonely. I know that all too well. Stick with it. Stick for going for the people that you know are going to make you feel good and that are on your level. Okay. Try not to get caught up in being lonely and going, because sometimes when we're lonely, we get bored and we fall back into our old patterns. So I'm going to say, yay for you. It tells me you're moving forward. Keep it up and just keep looking for your tribe, like Shift Witch was saying. You know, you're with like-minded people here. Start reaching out to people like us. Okay, we have a lot to offer you, and you know, we're similar, right? So good for you. And don't feel lonely. Just know that you're doing your work, and it does get lonely for a while, but keep it up. Okay, you'll find you'll find your people.
Thank you.
Thorne, go ahead.
Oh, coming. Yes. Okay, yes. So Christina, really good, thoughtful questions and considerations. I'm going to just I'm getting a vibe, and I too drew a few cards for you. So the first card was to set up boundaries. Spring is right now. It's time to look at the soil, to see what it looks like outside, to see what's growing.
Mm-hmm.
To see what you're ready to compost, but also what you're ready to grow. What are you ready to get rid of? What's not growing in your garden? What's not serving you or feeding you anymore? Those friendships, those relationships, and it seems like you are recognizing those patterns. And now you get to decide what you want to grow, to see what's going to be good, where you want to, ground yourself and set some roots that are going to help you go for long term, and to see where that shift is happening for you.
Okay.
A few other cards
sounds good.
I saw. The blue. What? The other one I saw was something connected to the color blue.
Okay.
And that's about building confidence, self-confidence, and trust in yourself. To learn how to do that over time. And to learn to enjoy your company more than others. And I think that happens over time, but I think you're on the right track. And having those friends that support that growth in you would be important. Also, that self-care. When you're working on seeing what you want to do, where you want to grow, I think it's having grace and compassion for yourself, balanced with the compassion that you give other people. 90% of the time we're thinking about other people, and we're not thinking about our own hearts and what we need. And when others not necessarily thinking about us, and we're not having that in our environment, it can be a little bit challenging. But when you do have that in your environment, it is very healthy. So when you're not getting that back, when you're not getting the thoughtfulness reflected back, I think it's a time to reflect on where your boundaries are.
Right.
And also, you are a sensitive person. I think getting more in touch with your intuition, slowing down so you can feel that connection, and just taking things step by step and slowing down and seeing, where other people are and where you are. I think, again, you are on the right track. There's no right or wrong here. It's just important to see where you are and to see what you need to do to get one step in front of the other. And if there's confusion, I think it's important to talk to other people, and other people that you feel that you can trust and have understanding over what your experiences are. Those are the type of people you want to share your story with. You don't share your story with just everyone. You want to share your story with people that have similar understandings as you, that can have that compassion, and can relate. And again, when I'm hearing everybody here, again, just to applaud you, to say that you're on the right track, and to keep it up, to keep up the hard work.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Thorne. All right, Dr. Tina.
All right. Hi, Christina.
Hi.
Great question. I guess I wanted to say is that I understand the path that you're going through. I completely can relate to this path, because I've been through the same thing of, once you start to make these realizations and understandings of what kind of relationships you have been in, then it is time to shift those. And when you're able to do that, when you're able to say, when you're able to say, okay, this is not healthy for me, I need to move on to healthy relationships. I agree with the others who've already said it, that is a sign that you are growing. And so congratulations for that. I want to expand on that just a little bit and say that when you are looking for new friends, it's a great time to just start cast your net widely and to make sure that you know exactly where you're going to set those boundaries. I mean, you might know them also from the narcissism experiences you've had with narcissists, but also just kind of know, where are your boundaries. And just like the more you know about those boundaries, the more you'll be able to go, oh, okay, those are my boundaries. And once you have boundaries, you have to also know whether engaging in that relationship and whether, whether that person is capable of change, by just giving them feedback, or whether they actually have malicious intent, right? And whether they are, so, about, I would say, the estimates really vary, but about 90% of us, and narcissism is sort of a continuum, like there's a continuum of sociopathy, but the people who are actually in that sociopathic range can range from between 3 and 10%, depending on what population is being looked at and so forth. And so there are people, and there's different degrees of it. Like, there's a healthy version of narcissism where people can be empathetic and are not out there to gain power over you. But once you get into those relationships where you might realize that the person is there to win, and that's all that's all they really want, and they maybe, but there's a true intention to just win over you. Those are the kinds of relationships that are not going to, they usually are the ones that are lacking a conscience, right? And that's kind of what we want to look for, is people who are lacking a conscience. And those are the people we just go, okay, nope, out of my life. But if, other people can be toxic at other times, right? We can all have our bad moments. In the moments of anger, we can say things that aren't kind. And if we can apologize and make amends and so forth, those are the kinds of relationships you do want, as long as you're not doing it constantly and the person's not learning, right? So just I think these are just things to keep in mind with friendships. Cast your net widely and look for the empaths. The empaths, if you're an empath, then empaths are probably going to be good people to hang out with. And good people do exist out there. You are one of them, and you'll find them, and just know that this is a part of the journey, but you'll get there. Okay.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Dr. Tina. Thanks for sharing. All right. Let's see. So I guess one thing is congratulations. It sounds like you've grown a bunch and that you're dating someone that feels like a better fit for you. Right. So that's great progress. Do you feel
Thank
that? You feel that it's progress? Okay, great.
Yeah.
So then one thing I find really helpful for everybody growing through everything is that when we identify a pattern, if we start talking about it in past tense, it lets our whole system, it lets the energy of the universe know that we're open for things to happen in a new way. So I would encourage you to say something like, my mom used to be the matriarch. Right? What's it like for you to say that right now?
My mom used to be the matriarch.
Yeah, so you're letting your system come to accept that this could be true. And then you can look for positive affirmations too that you can play with embodying more deeply, and there are tricks for embodying it more deeply. And I would go looking for your language, but here's just an example. I'm the leader of me. Okay. Just what does that sound like if you say that too? And if you want to change the language a bit, go ahead.
I'm in charge of me.
Great. Yeah, so and those are actually amazingly embodied for you, like those sound really solid in you. So continuing with things like that in whatever language feels good for you, that's great. And then you may not need to do this as much, like you just seem very empowered doing these, but so often for me in the situation like this is notice, well, you mentioned emotional availability. So articulating for yourself, how would you know when someone's emotionally available? So that as you're dating, as you're making new friends, how you can tell that someone's emotionally available. So have an awareness of what that is, right? So maybe write some notes for yourself of what that is and start checking that out about people in your life. So you can get used to thinking about that and knowing that you're worthy of having people be emotionally available to meet you. And then practicing your yes and your no. And I recommend practicing this with simple things. And by the way, I want to point out too, in defense styles, your mom is going to be our defense style of what I read in people's eyes, how we protect ourselves. It forms during the first 2 years of life, and your mom would have been your main wound that created all your defense style. And yours is the one that has trouble with boundaries and trouble saying yes and no in general. You're so strong in that, I almost wonder that you're switchable, but you came across as the one that would have had more trouble with that. So you might be half that, half and half. But your mom definitely is a big factor in that. And I would encourage you, it goes back to your first 2 years of life. So it's a big thing. So setting boundaries with your mom is like the hardest people in the world to do this with. So I practice with other people, and I practice with small things if small things are challenging. So for example, and you didn't mention, do you have any kids with the ex-husband that was narcissistic?
Yeah, I had 2 kids.
And how are your kids doing in terms of narcissism? How old are they? And What's happening for
They're
them?
12 and 13. And he's abandoned them.
Mhm.
So
Is
it
any of it
hasn't
showing up in
impacted
them?
them.
Okay, it's
I'm
not.
sorry?
Yeah, it's not showing up in them. That's
No, no,
great.
they're both pretty, they're both a lot more like me.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to be wrestling with his behavior as they become teenagers. I think somebody else
I
mentioned
just
that.
know that's one of the hardest things too as a kid, or hardest things as an adult, as a parent, finally getting rid of some of the narcissist in your life. And then one of the kids also is showing up narcissistic. It's a huge, huge challenge. I was going to say that, yeah, so like, for example, if your boyfriend is willing to play this with you now, you could do this with a child, but it's better if you do it with another adult. Just do things like ask some, if you're willing, like choose something like, and set it up with the other person that they know that you're practicing something. Ask them if they will like go get a pen for you and say which pen across the room, or ask them to go get a glass of water for you. And then again, you do this where they know that you're playing with them and practicing.
Right.
When they bring back the glass of water and like, oh, I meant it to be like this full. Can you go fill it, fill it up to there? So have them go change something. And so you're practicing yes and no. So those are ways to get stronger in these things so that you can do it with other people and, eventually build up to being able to do it more with your mother. Right.
Okay.
Oh, and also there are a number of people, a number of the practitioners that have had cats and dogs in their images tonight. And just if you have pets, those are great sources of unconditional love. Your kids might feel like a great source of that. The more that you know that and know you're worthy of that, the easier it'll be to choose that and find that in other people in your life. And this is something general for it, probably come up with other people too. I think it's great to have something that you love that you can cuddle with that's a little you. And the big place where you might want to have this is when you interact with your mother, after you've been interacting with your mother, to really love and cuddle the little part of you that has a hard time with her and has a hard time standing up to her, and that it's okay, right? And that you're taking care of your little girl the best you know how now. And that it's okay that she didn't know how to stand up to your mom because it wasn't safe. Like it literally might not have let you live when you were young. Right? So being like loving and caring with yourself on this journey, I think is really helpful. Right. So I know we didn't.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, you're welcome. I know we didn't link back exactly to what Sally said, but I feel like where Sally was heading, like it's just so like on point for where we're all going to head with each other. So anyone else have anything they want to just jump in and share with Christina before we finish?
Yeah, we're going to switch interpreters real quick. Thanks.
Yeah, any practitioners, anything else? Great. Thank you so much, Christina, for your question. And I know it wasn't as worded quite like a question. And I think you did a great job of presenting to us what was relevant for you so that we could share some feedback with you.
Thank you. Thank you for all the information. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. All right. Well, let's see. So next in line, we've got Carrie. Go get Carrie. All right. And just practitioners, the doc that I gave you with the notes evidently wasn't the right one. So I will go get you the right one and send it out shortly to each of you. All right, Carrie, what is your question?
Can you guys hear me well? I have on my son's gaming headset. Okay. We're in a hotel. Okay, gonna try to navigate this. This is 44 years of stuff. Get it as small as possible. I grew up as a only child in a single mother household. My mother was bipolar, manic, depressive, obsessive, compulsive. And I grew up in a home where I didn't know at the time until I got older that my mother was in and out of psych hospitals with suicide attempts and not wanting to live. So I grew up being told that I was the reason she was alive. She would remind me of that all of the time. And I didn't realize how big that was until I got into therapy later in regards to my marriage. So that's just the mother piece. I have been married for almost 9 years now. He was the love of my life. Currently grieving the loss of him, but he is still alive. He is an addict. The first 4 years, God, the fourth. All right, I got this. First 4 years of our marriage were amazing. I thought he suffered from bipolar disorder. It felt very similar to my mother. I begged him to get counseling, and Of course, he would tell me he needed more than that and couldn't quite tell me yet because he lied to me for those 4 years. And finally, he let me know he was an addict a week before I found out my mother was terminally ill. And I don't believe that was a coincidence. I don't believe there are coincidences. I believe it was my big hurrah, my test. And not being an empath and feeling people's pain, I think when I found out my husband had been lying to me and that he was an addict, I took off the wife shield and put on the friend shield. And after I grieved for a few weeks, I said, let's do this, let's fight. And the next 4.5, almost 5 years were brutal. I was lied to, I was manipulated. There was physical violence involved. And I fought really hard. I went into Naranon, I went into Al-Anon. I found this amazing support group on Facebook that I swear saved my life. It's Spouses of Addicts. And I learned piece by piece, codependency, enabling, tried to figure out my piece, and I fought so hard, and I took them back over and over and over. And I found the major piece was validating myself. That was my cycle. When he would say or do something, I had to get in there. I had to be heard. And in therapy, I found out there is no rationalizing irrational behaviors. And that was the beginning of trying to separate. In August, the last time he had put his hands on me, I swore if it ever happened again, it would be over and he would never get another chance. And that happened in August. And he's been out of my life. And there was a couple of times where, you know, I said, if you got help and you went into a program, I would give you a chance. You know, I would be by your side, but you'd need 6 months to a year, you know, that holding on, but not holding on, and that not letting him in the home. And over that, from August until now, I've grown so much. My life has changed greatly. I found your group about 2 months ago. I used to get messages from the universe all the time. I used to have paths laid out in front of me. I was visited. They called themselves the Brotherhood of Light. When my soul was suffering deeply, they came to me and they said that they came to help elevated souls and souls that are in distress find their way. And that's how I knew I was going to make it through all of this. But those messages stopped coming for about 3 years. And I think, I don't know if you remember, but I heard an infomercial was playing in the background while I was playing Uno. And all of a sudden they said, are you stuck in life? Are you not getting messages anymore? And I looked up and I'm like, what the heck? And I was like, yeah. And they basically laid out a plan. I don't know if it was real. I'm not questioning it. And they said I had to close the door for the universe to open the next. And until I cleared that space, none of my gifts would come. And I found you guys the next day and had a great growth out of that lesson. Last night, my son was having a video call with his dad, and his father panned the camera on purpose, manipulative, to some girl that he's living with now, months later. And it hurt. It stung pretty bad. Not that I wanted him, but that it was that final aha moment that he was not gonna fight for us. And I was shaking, I was nauseous, I was throwing up. So I went to my support group, and as I typed it out and shared with other people to try to help, the shaking stopped and I got this calm. And I realized my choices brought me to that moment, and that I made it out. In the last 3-4 months, I've been accepted to law school. I've been on 3 vacations. I am actually coming back from a 3-week vacation with my son to Disney. Money has been coming in. I am so spiritually connected. I'm getting messages and signs like I couldn't even comprehend. Look at this happened yesterday, and now there's a narcissistic detachment from toxic relationships. What? You know, like, so the question is, it's kind of twofold. One, I was told in therapy that my life lesson was I cannot save people. And it was my mother, and I did not make it through that lesson. And therefore it was repeated through my husband, because I felt if I left my husband, he would overdose and die. And I've made a lot of work with that. And I'm hoping that I made it through, because I don't want to go through this anymore. And the second part is the one thing, he keeps getting new numbers. He keeps texting me. He won't stop with the harassment and pictures. And I try so hard to block it and go no contact. And I just want to know, do you see an end in that? Is that going to stop? What can I do? I own my own company. I'm a real estate broker. I can't change my phone number. He will find it like that. Is there something that I can do to protect myself? Is there a prayer? Is there a crystal? What do you see for those two things? Have I learned my lesson? And what can I do to stop the narcissistic attacks constantly? Will he let go?
Yeah, great. All right. I know I've got stuff too. Yes, great. Great questions. And by the way, congratulations. Huge, 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 huge progress. Really exciting to hear your whole story. And I appreciate that we're here. All right, Shift Witch, go ahead.
Yeah, Harry, your story is absolutely amazing. First of all, you have done so much, and it's really beautiful to hear all of the different realizations and things that you have come to, and like especially these last couple of months, everything that you've got to do, which makes something like what happened to you yesterday punch even harder. Like it actually like makes more of an impact, because you're like sailing in this really nice place, and then the Kraken comes and wrecks your boat, basically. I was actually in a relationship with an addict for a while, and the hardest thing my therapist told me was they will never love you as much as they love their addiction. And that was horrible. Like that, the processing of that for me was like the worst thing ever. And to then realize that, yes, this is not something, this is not even a win or non-win situation. I'm not even in the equation. And so that is like the worst thing to hear, but it's what I needed to hear, so that I could be like, okay, this this really does have nothing to do with me. And at the same time, this has nothing to do with me. It was this, this double, this despair that it had nothing to do with me, and this almost relief that it had nothing to do with me. But then moving on from it and completely disentangling myself from it, and like allowing my self-worth as myself completely detached from that situation, was where the hard work was at, which is some of the stuff that you are still dealing with now because of the constant barrage. And like you said, you're in a business that does not allow you anonymity, unfortunately. So practicality wise, non-spiritual, I should say, would be, is there maybe a way you can get an assistant who screens all of the phone calls and things for a while? Because he'll get bored eventually. That part I will tell you, he's going to get bored with it. It's a need for attention, and if it's not being fed, then it will go somewhere else. The fact that you share a child obviously makes that much more difficult because there is still going to be some sort of overlap. But if you can have somebody else physically dealing with the interaction until he gets to that point, that could help. Metaphysically, boundaries and black stones, any sort of black stones are sort of protecting and shielding. I actually have that. I don't have a way to show it to you because it's stuck to my monitor, but I have an actual shungite sticker on my monitor to sort of help with any interactions I have online, since this is how we interact now, is virtually, to help keep me centered and protected and safe in online interactions. So if you can go and maybe I got mine honestly in a one of those monthly box things, but they must have them somewhere. So if you could go online maybe and see if they have a sticker like that and put it right on the phone. They may even sell a case where some of it's embedded in it, some of the stones embedded in it, something like that. So those are my metaphysical suggestions to you. And just from one human to another, keep doing what you're doing and just keep being fabulous and keep growing because it's beautiful. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Shift Witch. All right, I'm just going to jump in and share, and then we've got Thorne and Sally and Dr. Tina next. So, yeah, I'm going to come back around. But like, so which field in law are you interested in? Yeah, all kinds of feelings.
That's funny. I totally believe that the universe has a plan. I was born with the dream to go to law school. I would love to get into advocacy for addicts trying to regain custody, or to try to help them see the other side before they lose their children. I don't believe I went through this for no reason. But I also just want to make a difference in this world. I wear a ring. I've had it on for 12 years. Be the change you wish to see in the world. And I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know once I'm there, I will know.
Okay, so does your husband have any custody of the kids?
Well, we're still married. So in
still
Massachusetts,
married.
we have shared, but I have filed an ad fault divorce, which would give me full physical and legal custody. And my plan is, if he does not get clean and sober by then, I'm moving out of state.
Okay, so it's interesting that you said advocacy for addicts, which actually leads interestingly into my next question. Why have you not done anything like a restraining order with him? Is it that you're married, you can't, or what's up?
I have. I have had multiple restraining orders against him. But
why is there not one now? And I think this is really important. Think of a couple of things.
To be honest, it's the fear of the Department of Children and Family Services. They have been in and out of our life with his overdoses and stuff. And I was literally afraid to file one because it would be flagged, and I was afraid I might lose custody of my child. That's the truth.
Okay. I was watching to ensure that it wasn't that you're wanting to protect him in some way, or wanting to protect the kids being able to have access to him.
No.
Because it's protecting other people is the thing that's been a challenge. Okay. Yeah, so where are you with filing the divorce papers?
I submitted the paperwork on March 17th.
Okay, great. And
I've had them filled out since August, so that was a big one.
Okay, great. I love the suggestion of having someone else intercept phone calls to some extent. And so whatever support would be helpful for you, and having some support to do this would be good. It sounds like you've done tons of processing already. Has some of your processing been really letting yourself feel so angry? I mean, I differentiate anger, aggression. Aggression is to take someone else down, and anger is just no. And being this firm, really firm, and it can be loud and big, right? From all the years that you've not. So I think
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying I haven't felt anger. I have felt exhausted, drained.
I get that, but so often the exhaustion and the drain comes from the inability to say no and from continuing to take things that you don't want. So one practical thing, practical thing is lion's pose in yoga. I don't a version of this, so I recommend doing it in the shower. And so because you might vomit, but it's put your tongue down towards your chin. And you want to hold your throat open while you do it, so you don't hurt your vocal cords. Right. And so just that he keeps calling and thinking about how he's calling. Right. And you can go back to all the things that he gave you that you didn't want. And again, you might want to do this with some support because a lot of stuff can come up. And then there are ways of authentically expressing anger. And I've done it some on videos before. There's a washcloth, twisting the corner, putting in your mouth, biting far enough back you don't hurt your teeth, pulling them forward, biting down. So similar expression. And then also there's a way of taking a bath towel, folding it and twisting it. And I also put stuff up on my website, but twisting it. So, and this is so because these parts of the body are connected to anger, and you want to be able to feel your anger. And that's what will help you to be able to set a boundary so that energetically when he calls to no, and you're able to turn your attention, and it's practicing a muscle to be able to turn your attention and look at something else and focus on something else, and he's getting what he wants every time that he's emotionally impacting you and you, right? So I feel like you being able to feel anger is actually going to cure a whole lot of your exhaustion. Yeah, but getting support, so I worked with somatic psychotherapists, learning to use these tools and was processing my own stuff at the same time. So I had support. Yeah. Is it okay that I shared all this? I know that it was kind of strong the way I'm sharing it. Okay, great. All right, let's see who's next. We've got Thorne, then Sally, then Dr. Tina. Go ahead, Thorne.
Hello, Carrie, sorry. Your story, I was just sitting here and I really felt a lot through your story and your message. I just want to recognize that. While you were talking, I did draw 2 cards for you. This one, this card here. It says, inhale the breath of life. Breathe it in. And as you're going through all of this hard work, I think what this is saying is let's take a pause and give yourself permission to have a full breath in and to exhale completely and to really appreciate yourself and to recognize yourself and all this hard work you're doing. Sometimes it's okay to pause when we're in this hard work and to take that healing breath. And this other card here is this one. It's the color pink. And it has a flower on it, which is a tulip, a pink tulip. And I think that is love. And it doesn't have to be sweetheart or romantic love. Love can show itself in a variety of ways. And I think this one, again, is going to self-love for you and learning to care and love for yourself with self and compassion and with kindness to yourself. Recognizing your exhaustion and how tired you are. You've been carrying a lot. So I'm wondering about asking yourself, that exhaustion, what does it need? What will help with that exhaustion to feel more supported, to get the support you need? And then next is to ask that exhaustion, what kind of community do you need to connect with, to support you, so that you can get the relief that you need to continue? And then what else am I sensing? The filtering of boundaries. I agree with the other practitioners we've heard tonight, that idea of maybe bringing in somebody to help facilitate or mediate these calls. Again, if you don't feed his desire, his need for attention, then he will move on. So you need to identify somebody that you trust, that you can maybe ask to help with that. And then you can decide when that person is needed and when they're not. I think it's good to have somebody identified. And then that gives you some more space that you don't have to attend to that. That clears up space and energy for you to continue on your own work, your own studies, and your children. It's interesting to see where this path will take you from being where you have been with him to where you are now, attending law school, wanting to become an advocate. This has been a big, huge shift, and the lessons you've learned from this journey, there are things that are going to feed and care for you that have been great for you. And I think, though, you need to also recognize that although you've had lessons that you're benefiting from, that you're going to help others with, you do need that self-care and that space for yourself. When you were talking about kids, I sensed fear. You talked about having DHS be involved. You talked about loss of children. And that is very hard to acknowledge the trauma that our systems can have on us, especially governmental ones. And I think going back and really seeing what's best for you and what's best for the kids, and having really a lot of clarity around that. I like the mother lion, she knows when not to bare her teeth, but more when to just posture and be in a protective mode, because she's caring for things, her children that she loves. So boundaries can show in different ways. And, you can be the mother lion, but you can also show mothering in other ways. I think having more women or females in your life that have similar feelings and energy and power that you can connect with will help feed that lioness in you for what next steps you're going to need to take. You're on the right path. I feel that. So again, congratulations. And I think honoring your resiliency is amazing and important. So thank you. Best of luck.
Thanks, Thorne. All right, Sally and Dr. Tina.
Okay, hi. I'm going to try to get through this quick because I was getting tons of messages. I did pull some cards and I got rejection and healing, which is, so I feel that with the rejection card, though, a lot of this is coming from the rejection that you're feeling, that you felt your whole life. And in turn, I think that you might be rejecting other people, or more so not open up your heart to other people, to other situations. I just feel like you kind of putting a wall up to even thinking about possibly being with somebody else even moving forward. It's just like, forget it, I'm not going to do that. But I think really that you need to heal your heart and heal yourself to get past all this. I pulled some charms too, which I just love. You got 2 butterflies, which are all about new beginnings. You got the tree of life, which is strength and growth. And it's interesting that you said you're in Disneyland or Disney World, because I got the dolphin and the mermaid, which to me are about freeing yourself, being very like self-love. You got 2 angels, which means that you're protected and divinely guided. And you got, you also got a cross. I don't know if you're religious. It could just mean your faith or just to keep faith. But it's also giving me the protection feeling that you're being protected again. And then you also got like this, the steering wheel of a ship, which makes me think that you're the captain of your ship. You have to start to control and steer your own life and not worry about this person. I think you're putting too much, I don't want to say emphasis on him, but when we pull ourselves back, even mentally, that's when the other person will feel that disconnect. We have to pull our energy back, because if we keep our energy there, even just thinking about that person all the time or worrying about that person all the time, they feel that energy pull towards them. It's just how the energy field works. When I asked if he was going to stop, I got the Knight of Swords. He's very, very determined. He goes in and out, in and out. But eventually someone's going to get tired. Even the Knight of Swords is going to get tired. Then I got the 5 of Cups, which brings me to the loss, where I think it's a cycle. He's going to feel the loss. And then I think this is also coming from him feeling the loss of you already. And then we get the Hermit, which is him kind of going in within. I actually almost feel like maybe possibly he'll even do like rehab or something. I'm not sure. That's kind of another message I was getting when I got the Hermit. But it's going to get to a point where he's going to stop, but it has to be on his own terms. See what I'm saying? So you have to pull that energy back and stop feeding him. And then he's just going to like, a light's going to go off. See this card with the Hermit, how there's like a light? I don't know if you can see it, but it's like a light to me. Also, I just have one more thing to say. I feel like there's a male in spirit that's watching over you. I'm not sure if it's a grandfather or someone like that. You're on mute, so I can't hear you. But I do feel that there is someone in spirit that's watching over you.
My mom passed.
Okay, do you have a grandfather though as well?
My grandfather, my father, they're all gone.
Okay, this would be their grandfather or father, but this would be somebody that you might have been a little bit more close to. You might have had a better relationship with this person, so that's why I'm feeling maybe a grandfather, but I'm not sure. Anyway, he's sending a lot of love, and I feel like he's protecting you. He's watching over you, and and I also got the Knight of Cups too, which I feel is someone coming towards you when you open up and are ready. And this is going to be a more stable, loving man who's going to kind of show you what love is really supposed to be like. And I feel like your grandfather is kind of pushing this man towards you because he wants you to be happy. That's what I'm feeling. And that's what I got. Hopefully that helps.
Thanks, Sally. All right, Dr. Tina.
Yes, Carrie, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It sounds just enormously painful, but also you are quite an inspiration. And I want to celebrate how far you've come. The biggest thing I wanted to share with you in terms of like, him constantly harassing you or not letting you go, that is, I know what that feels like. I definitely know. And I experienced that. And what was interesting is that I felt that from a previous landlady who's a little, she had dementia and I believe Pick's disease, which is another form of sort of psychosis and narcissism, constantly harassing me. And it was insane. And so I've definitely been there. I've felt that before, but I also feel it from spam callers, like that I will get 3 or 4 a day and it drove me nuts. Right. And finally, I just got a Google Voice number. And with a Google Voice number, so I changed my work number to a Google Voice number. And now everybody has to give their name before it'll ring at my end. And that's how you can screen them out. So really simple, it's free. And it saves you a lot of stress in that way. So that's an option for that. The other thing I want to say is that, and I know this can be hard to take, and I don't mean this personally at all, because it's not really your fault, but we do attract what we vibrate. And if you're vibrating this sort of like, you're harassing me, leave me alone, sort of, there's an emotional trigger that's happening, right? And the time that he's going to actually leave you alone is when you're not emotionally triggered. So you have to find a way to release that. You can work with a healer if you need to, but you've got to like let go of that feeling that you're being harassed. And then because of the way things work on a vibrational level, because of quantum mechanics and not because of anything you'll learn from Western medicine, things shift. Your reality shifts when your internal reality shifts. And it feels very miraculous and it feels pretty crazy. And I can't believe I'm saying this, because if you asked me 10 years ago, I would have rolled my eyes. I used to, I don't know if you've heard of the concept of law of attraction, but I used to roll my eyes at it constantly. And then I realized, oh, I have a way to test this out. And so I tested it out, and boy, I was schooled. So, so yes, every time, like, if I have a client that's coming to me with something else that somebody's doing to them and they're very emotionally triggered by it, we release that feeling. And then I do something called court of atonement, which we actually can work things out on a spiritual plane, and things can shift. And let me just give you a sense of how powerful that can be. I had a client that was working with a narcissist that was constantly harassing her. We released anything so that she could, when you're dealing with narcissists and addicts are a lot like this, you kind of have to be dead to them. You have to sort of like be a rock and just not get emotionally triggered, because they, the manipulation is the fact that they know that they can trigger you. And so then they keep going, right? But if you're a rock, they're like, oh, I can't hang my hat on this. Like they get bored and then they move on, right? So you got to be a rock. And so we release barriers to make it easy for her to just be, like not responsive, right? And then we called in Court of Atonement. And the crazy thing is, we brought it up to a spiritual level. And the crazy thing is that this narcissist suddenly stopped being a narcissist to her only. It was insane. But this is the kind of thing that can happen when you're working with energy. So just FYI, if you change your internal concepts and so forth, but it really is, it's not just up here, but it's your energy. It's like from top to bottom and all your chakras and everything involved. But when you're able to change and make those real deep shifts, there is something that's happening at a more spiritual level that changes your reality. So I just want to put that out there and allow you to give some thought to it. I know it may sound crazy if you've not heard it before, but
can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
What am I turning that energy to? Like, wow, that was a good life lesson. I'm glad I'm out of it. Time to move on. What is that energy that I'm seeking to turn the exhaustion and the harassment into?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's basically, what happens is when you're not triggered anymore, you just kind of look at it and go, oh, he's trying to get me again. Okay, no problem. There's no emotional response from you. It's just like, oh, there he is. No big deal. It's like I now, like when I was growing up, and my dad would constantly harass me, right? And I'd be just triggered and angry, and I'd keep it inside, but I'd be just fuming inside, right? And now if somebody said something pretty toxic to me, I'm just like, oh, they have issues. And I just move on. It's just like, oh, they've got issues. I can see just right through them. I can see what's going on. And I'm not going to engage because I know they're just dealing with their own drama, or maybe this is a manipulative personality. Not for me. I'm going to move on. And the funny thing is it doesn't happen nearly in the way that it used to happen. Like I used to track that kind of energy all the time. And it's sort of, what's interesting is that, like, for example, like on Facebook, it's a great example, is I would see these comments that people would make and I'd get triggered and then I'd like start to argue with them. Right. And now, like, I see a comment like that and it's just like, I don't engage. And most of the time I just go, that person isn't going to be a person I want to be friends with. And I block them. They're usually not people I actually know personally that I do, because I actually allow a lot of people to friend me who I don't know personally because they seem like they'd be cool. And so, yeah, I just let them go. I just don't engage. And I'm just like, okay, they're struggling. They're in that part of their journey. But I focus on, I'm getting selfish. I focus on what do I need to thrive, right? What do I need to have the life I want? And part of that is finding real control over your environment and keeping it and holding on tight to it, right? Finding the people that give you joy, that lift you up, that help you be the person you want to be. And then the other people that aren't where you're at because you're on a higher plane, you just look at them and you go, I'm sorry that they're on that journey, that's where they're at. I hope that they'll get to the next place, or to a better place. But you don't want to like try to fix them, you want to offer them support and then just let it go, because you need to have healthy boundaries as well. You need to focus on having an energy around you that lifts you up. Because what happens, your external reality really impacts your internal reality. I think we often think that, it's all within us, but people forget, like, we are so influenced by our environment. And I don't think that in Western, in our America, we really understand that and value that, but it is so important. And it really can make a difference, especially if you're an empath, to your own psychological health. So hold on tightly to your boundaries and hold on to the people that love and support you and the person that you want to be.
Yeah, that's great. I want to say you're feeling your waves of anger so quickly that you're able to set boundaries with like the lightest little blip of a wave, Dr. Tina. So that's what, yeah. So Dr. Tina is a great example of being so in touch with her anger for me. That's how I interpret it. I know Shift Witch, you had something else you want to share. Go ahead. And then I want to share just a little bit more too. Did you want to go?
Yes. I just remembered you talked about sort of this, it sounded more like it was an external and internal agreement that, you know, if he went and got clean and if, then you could be together again. So that's something that I also at one point did with my father, and I wrote him this whole letter, you know, like, if you go and get therapy and stop being a crazy narcissist, blah, 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 blah. And what I realized was that was another door that was left open and it needed to shut in order for me to really let go and be fully myself. So my suggestion is, if you can take a piece of paper, write down those things you said, and then in some safe way, burn it. You need to see it go away physically, so that you can also feel that go away physically, so that is a completely closed portion of this as well. So I just want to jump in and say that.
Great. And I want to cycle around to say just something about your eyes and one other thing. So in terms of your eyes, I think that law school is great for you because I think you have talents of scholar and warrior. Scholar is about absorbing information to build knowledge and share knowledge. So they understand puzzles, and warriors about practical implementation. And together, scholar and warrior sees systems. So analyzing things in terms of systems and bringing understanding in ways that are practically useful. So that's all great. So I love that you're going back to following what your interest was, desire was from when you're young. You seem very capable, and I'm thrilled you got into school. I'm personally concerned that there's an energy leak, though, in what you're wanting to study. Given your history, that you're wanting to advocate for addicts is a little confusing to me, because the thing that would seem more in line with your healing would be to advocate for people that are caught in situations with addicts and don't know their way out. So clearly, your passion, follow whatever you're called to follow. And I'm just concerned about that it might be an indication that somehow you're still wanting to caretake people. That the system is changing. One of my big corporate clients is Landmark Recovery. It's a recovery business that uses a holistic approach. They're growing, so they're only in some parts of the US now, and they're growing to become national. And it's just so clear, so much more that we know now, that addiction is physical, and that's just so much that's needed for people to move through it. And while they do need advocates, for me, it seems like having your energy go into advocating for you and people like you, or something more like that, seems like that it's more in line with the journey you're on. So for me, if you can find a way to loosen up and not be focused on what you're wanting to study and discover what you want to study over the next bit of time in school, that seems like that might be more supportive to what's happening right now. All right, practitioners, anything else for Carrie? Yeah, let me just go back to your two questions where, yeah, like, will it end? And then let me go back. I have notes on this. Yeah, what can you do? Yeah, and have you learned your lesson? So you're the one that knows whether you've learned your lesson, and you feeling the energy in you of like, I've learned my lesson. You can tell the universe too, like, oh, I'm done with this. I'm done with this. Right? And the feeling that congruence in you, and anytime any little bit and reminder and temptation comes up, like, oh yeah, I'm done with this. Yeah. Sally, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, and also, I don't know that anyone can tell us how many lessons that we have in life, you know, I mean, because we're always learning lessons. But I think that we're always going to learn lessons. So I just think that as long as you do learn a lesson from that experience, then I would say, like, you're good. You don't have to keep going that cycle. You don't have to keep allowing yourself, like Laureli said, you can say, I've had enough and I'm just done, and, you know, make it a positive lesson. But also, before, when you were saying about how can you shift your energy or what else should you focus on, anything, anything but him. You know what I mean? I don't care if it's the TV, watch a show, walk. It's kind of like when you're trying to quit smoking, right? You know, you have to kind of, it's a process. You have to kind of like reward yourself too. You know, you have to acknowledge, okay, I just picked the cigarette up. Well, I'm not going to do that again. You know, also keep a journal. Write how many times you know, throughout the day you thought about him, or like how many days you've gone without thinking about him, that kind of thing. And just give yourself the feedback and the encouragement. And I don't care, focus on anything. You know, they have like cord cutting routines too that might be good. You know, you can cut cords. There's all kinds of ways you can just even visualize a cord that's like connecting you, and just visualize yourself cutting that cord, you know. And if you want to just cut the negative parts of it too, there's even ways to do that, where if you're completely fearful to completely cut them because you do think there might be a chance he's going to change in the future and you don't want to completely, you know what I mean? Just cut the negative parts that are there. But I just think focusing on anything and everything and being aware of the behavior and thinking of it as like what you would do to lose weight or what you would do to quit smoking. It's really just a habit. It's a behavior pattern, and figure out how to just cut that out and walk, watch TV. I don't know, anything. That's all.
And last night I totally didn't, I never responded. I didn't say a word. And then of course I wake up to a message. He had stolen my guitar that I had bought to try to teach myself how to play when he left the last time, and sent me a picture of a guitar. So it turned into this, and I ignored it.
Yeah, you know why? Because
nothing.
This is like a childish toddler who's trying to get your attention by doing reactive things to try to get a reaction out of you. That's all it is. He's baiting you to try to get a reaction out of you. And the more you give it to him, the more he's like, yep, I got her. Yep, I got her. So you can't give him the satisfaction anymore. You know, eventually, if you ignore, you know, you put a baby down and they cry and they cry and they cry and you don't pick them up, they stop. And that's just what you have to do. Like you did, you ignored them. And I'm telling you, being happy and living your authentic self is the best revenge you can ever have on anybody. That's really it.
Yeah, someone else mentioned that too. Yeah, like that we hadn't fully answered what to focus on. I'm focusing on you. I agree. Learning to strengthen your muscle of turning away from having attention on him. And I want to go back to do you have an attorney that helped you file the documents?
I did it all myself.
So I want to encourage you to look for legal support right now that can help you strategize how to do this, so that you can use legal resources to cut the bounds with cut ties with him very literally, in a way that will, you know, if the attorney advises this in a way that'll allow you to still keep your kids, and really strategize that, because it's time to change the locks on the house. It's time to really stop him from coming in, and you're the one that can set those boundaries. And I just,
he can't get in. I moved into a luxury high rise that you have to have a key to even get into the elevator. He can't
how
get
did you
near
get
us.
your guitar?
That was back in August when I had let him back.
Okay.
When he left, he took a lot of my mother's jewelry, which meant the world to me, my wedding ring, you name it, my boots.
Yeah, I guess attorneys are expensive. I just encourage you to not feel like you have to do everything yourself. Just watch.
It's all done. It's all filed.
Yeah, but you
It's
still have
done
it
as
going
of
through
March
the
17th.
system, right? What's that? I can't hear you. Sorry, you're muted.
I can guarantee you he's not going to show up.
Well,
He won't be there. He won't even give me an address. I'm going to have to advertise in the newspaper. Mike, I'm not concerned at all about the divorce. He has not one leg to stand on with all of the abuse prevention orders, the harassment, the theft. I'm not concerned about
just mentioning just in case. All right, great. I'm glad that the guitar was long ago. Great. All right. Well, thank you so much for your question, and congratulations on so much progress. It's huge. Yeah. So just so many people are supportive of you and your journey, and your story's been inspirational for lots of people. And I don't know if you've seen all those in the chat, but there are a lot of those in the chat. Okay, just scrolling up. There were a lot. All right. Well, we actually, as far as I know, we don't have another question in line. So the field is open if someone wants to jump in and ask a question, we are available for that. I'll put the information in the chat again. And we're also taking donations for the interpreters. Thank you so much, everyone, for that too. You can make a copy of the chat. Yeah, so if you go to the bottom of the chat, the 3 dots, click Save Chat, and it'll save it as it is right now, unless they've changed it, and it saves it at the end too. We used to have to change it each time. You have to save it each time. So save it now so you have a copy, and then at the end of the event, or before you leave, click Save Chat again. Yeah. All right. Oops. Sorry, I went off a corner of my screen. I had to change my hot corners. All right, I'm doing it before I go to sleep tonight. I keep doing that to myself. All right. Yeah, so anyone wants to ask a question, we've got half an hour. So we're here. See if anyone wants to jump in. And if not practitioners, we can ask questions. We can talk about other tools or give more details about other tools that we use, or it's up to us what we want to do. And if someone does ask a question, please let me know in chat so I can get you up immediately, and you can have as much time as possible. And I appreciate the 2 questions tonight. The 2 questions were great. Maybe some of the, one of the things we said that I think is useful for everyone. Yeah, we talked about cord cutting probably. As just examples of things for cord cutting. I was mentioning, I think with one of the questions, that how would you know if someone's emotionally available? So I encourage everyone, like for anything that you're looking for in a partner, be it a friend, a partner, an employer, how would you know, like, how do you want someone to be showing up? Like, what's a healthy way? What do you want that relationship to be like and the interaction to be like? And then how would you know that that's happening? So that when you're interacting with people, you can see if those are there. All right, great. Yeah, so someone asked about cord cutting, and then yeah, lessons learned. I think that's great. I'm Dr. Tina, or let's see, and Shift Witch, did you want to, let's see, I don't know if you're leaping in for cord cutting. I guess, Dr. Tina, can you say a little bit more about lessons learned? And yeah, Laurie's got an interesting idea too. That's great. Tina, Dr. Tina, yeah, can you say more?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mentioned earlier on, and I don't know how many people were there here at the beginning, but my story really briefly is that I had parents.
I don't want you to jump all the way into it. If you could just tell me a little bit more of what you mean by that, about lessons learned. You just mean our personal lessons learned, or what do you mean?
Yeah, what personal lessons learned have we learned? What personal lessons have we learned from our own experiences in dealing with toxic personalities, and how have we become better?
Great, great. I think some of us have shared a little of that already, I think. So I want to maybe look at some of the other things first, and that's great too. And then Laurie was suggesting maybe, yeah, a meditation to talk to your, I'm not quite as, but I'll let her say what that is. And then Laurie, maybe do you want to just say it out loud as an option? And then Shift Witch, do you have something to say about cord cutting? Is that what you're leaping in to speak to? Okay, yes, hold on, let's see. Yeah, Laurie, do you want to say a little more about suggesting?
I have a little exercise, I guess I'll call it meditation, whatever you want to call it, where we can all do this together, if you like, and talk to our narcissistic person in our lives. And I can guide it. And then you just talk individually to the person that you want to talk to. And it's a very healing exercise if you want to do that.
And about how many minutes?
It just takes maybe 5-10 minutes at the most.
Okay, so kind of yeah, probably, if we can keep it more to like 5-7, that would probably be good. And
okay, we could do that.
Yeah, and then also someone asked about healing our inner child, right? In this case, from our root chakra, but healing.
Oh, it's kind of the same. Like it's basically the same thing. Because you can talk to your, okay, I'll give you 2 options you can do, you guys. You can either talk to your inner child person and tell them what you need to say to them, or you can talk to your narcissistic person and tell them what you want to say to them. You want me to start now, Laura?
Yeah, it's great. I'm just checking on, like, want to make sure no one wants to ask a question first. If someone wants to ask a question, that's what we've committed first to do with our time, so.
Okay.
Yeah, anyone else thinking they want to ask a question? No, we're not all, well, we might, no, we're not all in Washington State. We're definitely not. Yeah, some of us are further away. All right. Well, let's see. So maybe let's just go around briefly and say where we are. So I'm in Washington and Dr. Tina's in Washington. And then I know Thorne is in Oregon, I believe. And Laurie is in yet some other state.
I'm in BC, Canada.
Okay, she's in another country. And then Shift Witch, where are you?
Oregon as well.
And Sally?
I'm in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so we're all over the place. All right. Well, let's see. So what I'm thinking, so what Laurie's offering, I don't think we've covered anything like that yet or in another panel. We've talked about some cord cutting and things like that in some other panels. So I'd love to do that first and then make sure no one else is jumping in for a question. Let's do that first and then let's see if we get around and do some of the other things. I appreciate the suggestions. This is great. All right, yeah,
Okay,
Laurie, I'm doing
so-
two options.
Okay, yeah. So it's both, you can either do your inner child or your narcissistic person. So what I want you to do is I want you to, if you visualize well, I want you to visualize an infinity symbol. And both, yeah, and you're in one half of it and your person is in the other half. Now, whether it's your little inner person and you want to send them all kinds of love and tell them how you wish you were there for them and that you're there for them now, okay, those kind of things for your inner child. Let them know that it wasn't their fault, whatever they went through. And you can do this for the narcissism as well. But if you want to talk to your narcissistic person and put them in that other circle, tell them good, bad, ugly, be as real as you can be with them. It's very healing. So I'll just leave you to do that and just talk to them. Hold your little person, tell them how much you love them and how safe they are now. You can tell them all the things that you wish you would have known then that you know now. And that you're here with your expertise now to help them now, that they can come to you, they can call you, and you're there for them. And if it's a parent that you have in your other circle, be as real. Like I say, tell it good, bad, ugly, otherwise. Whatever you want to say to them that you've never been able to say to them. Also forgive that narcissistic person because they're broken. And it helps you to heal if you forgive them. And I think that's probably enough time for now. And you guys can always use that tool anytime you want.
Yeah, I think say something back.
Sorry.
Are you all done?
Yeah, I think you guys, yeah, if
Yeah, I
you
think
can
I'm
use
done.
that anytime you like.
I'm gonna
I hope
say
that
just
helped. Sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, Laurie.
No, I just hope you guys all enjoyed that.
Great, and I was just gonna say too, if yeah, any feelings that come up or just anything that comes up is totally okay. All right. Well, let's see. So maybe let's go around first and say if anyone has anything else about root chakra, about like I think it was healing, healing little children through root chakra, and then we'll talk about cord cutting, and then we'll talk about lessons. We have a bit more time. So I know Thorne, I know you had something you wanted to share about root chakra, but let's go ahead and do that first. And that's related to what Laurie was sharing. Thorne, do you want to jump in, and then anyone else that has anything about that? Okay, yeah, Thorne, go ahead and share about root chakra, what you wanted to share.
Okay, great. Okay, first of all, the root chakra is, in your body, it is down low, right where your spine ends, kind of where our sexual and reproductive organs are. So it's in that part of our body. It's centered there. It's the color red represents that chakra. And if your root chakra will have good vibrations and good energy when it's in the right space, it'll be a vibrant red, like a ruby color. And if we have any anxiety, or we're in chaos, or we're in, disarray or confused, the root chakra color could become more dark, could become cloudy. It could get stuck in that darker color realm, closer to black than the healthy, vibrant red. And there's many different ways you can clear the root chakra. One way is to work on affirmations and have affirmations ready. I have a chakra card ready here. And one of the affirmation I think is perfect. Yesterday was Earth Day. So it's a good way, Mother Nature's energy was available for us to have and to use. This affirmation is, I am content with Mother Earth gives me the security and safety to feel rooted here in the world in this moment. And when you repeat this type of affirmation over and over again, and you bring the energy that it brings to you down to the root chakra, that can help feel the grounding that you need. It can help with the healing. And I think that is one practice that you can use to work with your root chakra. And the root chakra is also connected to everyday needs that we need. Financial, work, sleep, home, just our basic everyday necessities that we experience every day. And that includes love. But first, we have to give self-love. The world out there has a lot of stories that it's selfish to put our needs first. But that's not true. I disagree with that messaging. That is the wrong story. It is actually healthier to take care of ourselves. And then once we are fed and filled up, our cup is full, if you will, then we have enough to share and give to others. But it takes that balance. Our cup needs to be full first before we can care and give to others. So I think that's really important to keep in mind. When we were talking about the cord cutting, Again, there's a lot of different strategies and approaches to that. One way that I tend to do is I have a sewing kit with different colors of yarn or string. And I look for the one that it feels right for that day, for where I'm at. And if I'm feeling a little anxious or, not very settled with a person, I can pick a piece of string, the color that speaks to me, that I feel resonates with them. I envision their energy in the string. I do some visualization, and I also say it's okay to let go. Loss is okay. I recognize and acknowledge what I've been experiencing. And then when I'm ready to have that break and to let go, I do feel like it's a physical representation. And I empower the thread to have that. And then I actually get a pair of scissors and I'll cut that string. And then I release that energy from me. And it is away from me. And then once I'm done with that visualization and cutting of the string, I put the string or whatever's left in the trash or the recycling or any way that feels appropriate to get rid of it. A lot of times I might put some sage or cedar on it, whatever feels right, something to neutralize that energy as I discard it from my space and my environment. Another tool is I actually visualize the cutting to shut that door. Is I picture that person with their energy. And I figure out like a ball of energy, and I try and envision what color that energy is showing me. And then I'll say, return to sender. I think of that ball of energy and I say, return this to the sender, send it back. And then when I'm ready to release it and send it back, I do so. And then I make sure that I actually close that space and that it is sealed. And I think it's important to have an actual seal after you cut the cord to make sure that that energy does not return. So those are the two tools that I use, and there's many others that I could share. But I wanted to share two that people might be comfortable with, and hopefully that will resonate with some of you out there. Thanks for your time tonight. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you, Thorne. Have anyone wanted to share anything else about root chakra or about cord cutting? I know I have a cord cutting thing I can share, but yeah, go ahead. I know, Shiftwitch, you had something. Go ahead, and then Sally. So Shiftwitch, go ahead.
So for the cord cutting, first I would feel into where in your body you feel it the most whenever you bring this person to mind, whoever they happen to be. And this can be chakra based. This can be just literally wherever you feel it the most. At that spot, then you can either take, if you want, you can literally take something sharp like a knife. You can take a crystal. You can take something that is meaningful as a removal tool in whatever way it is. And rather than just making a slice, unwind that cord, because it's something that took a long time to build up. And sometimes the cutting of it can feel sort of jarring, and or if this is somebody that you have to have some sort of connection with throughout your life because you share children or family or something like that, this might be a little more effective to keep you safe but not allow as much to flow through. So finding that point in your body and then moving that the knife, the crystal, whatever it happens to be, counterclockwise if you were looking at yourself. So it's going to be a little skewed from your perspective, and you want to literally unwind it. So keep moving until it is something you can barely see or it disappears. It's your choosing. And just keep moving that until you feel that connection shrinking, 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 and eventually you don't feel it anymore. Even if it's something that you need to leave connected in some way, shrink it to the point where you feel it is manageable and you feel safe again. So that's my input for cord cutting.
Great, Sally, go ahead. Thanks, Shipwitch.
Okay, so I'm not an expert, but I just wanted to chime in on the root chakra a little bit. A lot of the root chakra, if you think about it as like the root cause, you know, if you have medical problems, they always want to get to the root cause. A root of a plant is where it all starts. So that's how I always think of the root chakra. It's the base of everything. So if you have an underactive root chakra, you can have depression, you can have you can be disconnected from family, from friends, you can be lethargic, mostly like, you know, low energy type of a low vibration would be an underactive root chakra. If you have an overactive root chakra, then you're going to have, you know, anxiety. You might feel restless, agitated, things like that that have to go with your health. So it's the opposite of what you would be having if it was underactive, you know. But what you want to do is you want to get yourself to the point where it's balanced. So you just want to think about balancing. You want your homeostasis, you want your body to be balanced. So you want to ground yourself, and you can just kind of go outside, stick your feet in, you know, the ground, the grass, bare feet in the grass, go in the sand, get out into nature, ground yourself, feel that calming effect that, you know, nature has on you. Red stones, also any kind of red crystal, because the color is red, will help to balance it. So really it's figuring out if it's underactive or if it's overactive, and trying to get the balance to balance that out so that you're not swinging one way or the other. And it really, I feel like if you looked it up, you'd see like a ton of symptoms that you could have for each way. So if you just think of it as like balancing yourself, your emotions, your wellness, your body, and trying to get them all into alignment, I think that's kind of the easiest way to understand it if you don't know a lot about it. That's how I kind of learned about it. That makes sense. That's really all I wanted to say.
Great, great. All right, wait, I'll jump in and I'll share something briefly about cord cutting. So I got to do this standing up. So anything from the anything somewhere, anything in someone else or the past or anything like that, this is useful for. And it's just there's some basic ways of doing it, and then there are ways you tune it for whatever the situation is. So standing up. So choosing the direction of whatever, you know, and I've had people doing upwards, whatever the other thing is. And so choosing one side of your body that feels right for that thing. So I'll just give an example of something with the past that keeps, like, it's still in our space. So I'm going to step out with the foot and the arm that's for. So I'm stepping out and pointing out, and I'm looking down my arm way out there to the past. That was then. And then I'm dropping my arm, picking up my other leg, stepping down with my other leg while I bring that other hand to my heart, and this is now. That was then, and this is now. That was then, and this is now. It's important to say and in between. It's important to step out and then to step down and bring hand to the heart while the arm goes down and the foot steps back in. So you're bringing your energy into the space now. This is now. You can also say something like that was them, and this is me. That was them, and this is me. And it's good to take a breath and let it settle in and let it integrate. And it can be, that's their business, and this is mine, right? It can be, that's how I used to respond, and this is what I do now. You can make it up, it can be anything. Okay? So that's stepping and splitting. And the things that we do that demonstrate to ourselves that we're not done is we might keep the arm out. or we might leave our arm here while we go back. So really watching to see just energetically, right, that this gets to be a clean motion. So having someone watch is helpful. And then let's say sometimes we're not fully ready to let something go. Sometimes the thing to do is to accept that we're not ready. And then a related and different version of this might be, let's say, I'm going to step out equally with the two sides. So in this case, it would be, I want to end it and I don't. I want to end it and I don't. In that case, I put my arm down. That feels better. I want to end it and I don't. And again, breathing afterwards. And let's let your body integrate and accept that both are true. And for me, pushing something away actually has it cling tighter, like the Chinese finger puzzle. Whereas when I embrace that they're both so, that's when I feel more ease and whoosh. That's like going into the Chinese finger puzzle and it loosens. So those are examples of tools that I use. And it's just so important tuning it to whatever's, sorry.
I want it.
So yeah, just tuning it to whatever is useful in the moment. And then watching all the subtle cues of the body of how we let ourselves do that. And if you're thinking about the topic as you do this, you can feel the energy of it shifting in you as you do it. So that's how you know that it's effective in something shifting. I believe that just like techniques like EMDR that cross the midline of the body, that it helps us detangle the neurons that are hooked together and firing together about a topic. So literally it's cutting cords inside our brain as well as energetically cutting cords, psychologically, spiritually cutting cords. And someone today, I don't remember who it was, today or yesterday, was just like Sally was saying, like just for me, the intention, our willingness to have something be cut, and how to say, it's our willingness and knowing that we're worthy of having whatever that thing is that we want. And so cutting anything, it's our declaration that I'm done, and knowing that we're worthy of being done. And that's what allows the being done to happen. It doesn't mean that something might not reappear. It's like we have a new way of responding with it. And that's why I love that Dr. Tina just, nope, it's great. All right. Any other tools on cutting cords that are brief? And then I know Dr. Tina had something she wanted to share about lessons, or if there's anything else you want to share, I want to give you a chance to. Yeah, Dr. Tina, if there's something else that you want to share right now, go ahead. I just want to give you some space also.
I just want to make sure I'm, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I guess it was more of a question of, whether any of us had lessons learned they wanted to share. I know that I mentioned earlier that the big lesson I had was that once you know what you're dealing with and you can identify the patterns and you understand what kind of personality types there are. I mean, I think in the United States and even in maybe Canada, we often think that other people are going to be like us. If we're empaths, we think that other people are capable of empathy. And I think we've had a tough lesson in the last 4 years that not everybody is like us, and that not everybody is capable of empathy. And I think it's a good awakening. It's good for us to know that, and also to know that most of us are, and that there are a few that are not. And we just have to know how to distinguish who's who, and know who's safe, and know who to stay away from, and know that, like, most of us do struggle in relationships. We're not, the getting lessons and learning how to communicate in healthy ways is so important. And figuring out who those people are that you can eventually come to an understanding with and have a good relationship with, versus the people who are better to just kind of like let go of. So I guess that's the lesson I've learned, is just the more you know, the more prepared you are. And then not only do you have to know it up here, but you have to know it in here, right? So that's where healers come into play, is they can really help you take what you've learned, which is so important, and then embody it completely so that your energy no longer falls back into your old habits. Because that gets really hard. We come pre-wired in a certain way, based on our inherited experiences, believe it or not, epigenetically, as well as of course our genetics and our experience in the womb. And so all of that is really hard to like unwire. And there's just a lot of deep stuff that goes back generations. It could be past lives. and other spiritual elements that are involved, or it could be, you know, something that, you know, a toxin or pathogen that you've been exposed that have rewired your brain in funky ways, or nutrition issues. So there's a lot of different underlying contributors that can contribute, but you can work with healers, you know, any healer in this room or in this Zoom in order to really reconfigure energy so that you attract what you want to attract in your life. So there's hope. What I'm saying is that even if you've been feeling like you're stuck in these negative patterns, that once you discover the power of energy medicine, you know that there's so much more beyond what you could have ever imagined. And I say this from an academic who would have rolled my eyes at this very same statement 10 years ago. Right, Laureli?
Oh, yes. Dr. Tina and I have this in common. Yep. It's great. Yeah, I was a biologist and went through the whole academic path, or at least not as much as Dr. Tina, but part of the academic path too. And yeah, rolled my eyes at all kinds of things and can't believe what I do now. Believe it and can't believe it all at the same time. Yeah, and then another point that just some other messages coming through, which one of you was just sharing. It is so important that we, right, I think maybe it was you, Dr. Tina, that we not only know in our head, but that we know in our heart, and then also that we know it in our body. And that part of this healing journey often is being comfortable being in our body, where if we had so much trauma before, it wasn't comfortable allowing our energy to stay in our body and to be present in the moment in our bodies. So definitely part of that journey. All right, well, I know I just put practitioners' information in the chat again too, and there's also a link in the chat. If anyone wants to make a donation to the interpreters, that is great, of course. And then also, if you're interested in giving us some feedback about tonight, if you give us your email address, we'll enter you into a drawing for a free 30-minute session with one of us of your choice. And you'll also get to hear from the other practitioners on the panel. It's a great opportunity. And yeah, so let's go through practitioners and let's share again about who we are, our modalities, and how people can contact us. So it's here in the video as well as in the chat. All right, maybe let's go through a related order as before. I think it was Dr. Tina, and then Dr. Tina, and then Laurie, and then Thorne, and then Shiftwitch, and then Sally. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Tina.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me here. It was absolutely a delight. And you can see my cat slept through the whole thing, unfortunately, but I guess we'll, you know, next time if we have one for cats, it might be better. We'll have more squirrels when we do that. So I'm Dr. Tina. I'm a holistic brain health practitioner. I help with the root causes that interfere with health, harmony, and happiness. I also help rewire people's brains. Love doing that kind of work, but also very passionate about helping people get over toxic relationships and really come into a place where they can thrive. So important to me. And I know that when you have grown up with those kinds of situations, you often have a lot of chronic diseases and autoimmune issues and so forth. And I support people with those and really can make a huge, help people come to new shifts and feel on top of life. So I'm at tryholisticbrainhealth.com and I offer a complimentary consultation. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Tina. All right, Laurie.
Hi, I'm Laurie from Laurie's Angelic Guidance and Intuitive Healing. I use many different modalities to help you heal your inner child, your narcissistic wounds, and many other things, whatever comes up for you. Yeah, I like to use theta a lot of times because it's not very invasive. It's very easy to use. Anyway, I just thank you all for coming here and hope to see you.
Oh, and what is your contact info so people can find you on the web if they're watching the video?
It's Laurie's Angelic Guidance and Intuitive Healing on Facebook, Laurie Psychic Healer on Instagram, and yeah, that's how you find me.
That's great, and it's Laurie spelled Laurie. People are listening.
Yeah.
Great. Thorne, you are next.
Hello, everyone. Great. Okay, we're good to go. Yep. Again, hello. I'm Thorne. I use they, he pronouns. I'm in Portland, Oregon. I have several modalities I use. I use the tarot cards, runes, energy healing. I also provide life coaching. I work with a wide diverse group of clients. The audience I usually serve is the queer LGBTQ community. But again, I'm happy to work with all different clients from all different backgrounds. I work with hearing and deaf clients. I can serve that spectrum. You can contact me if you're interested in contacting me. My website is www.spirtoracele.com. You can also check me out on my Instagram. It's at Heart of Oak 8, Heart of Oak 8. And then my email is Heart of Oak and the number 8 at gmail.com. I don't use Facebook. Sorry about that. I like to keep my life simple. For a session, I can either type or use an interpreter. I'm happy to meet clients with what they feel most comfortable with. And I'm happy to be here. And I want to say a big thank you to our interpreters tonight for making this possible. Thank you for your support and for supporting the deaf community. So good night, everyone. Hopefully we'll be together in this space again soon. Oh, also, one more thing. I do offer right now a full moon reading. Monday will be the full moon in Scorpio. So I am offering a half hour to an hour reading this weekend and next. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to reach out to me. Thanks.
Thanks, Thorne. All right, Shift Witch and then Sally.
Hi, I am the Shift Witch. I help you create shifts so radical they must be magical. And I do that through empowered movement and energetic healing, moving your body, moving those emotions through. And then I also offer compassionate coaching as well. You can find me at theshiftwitch.com. I'm on Instagram at Shiftwitch. I'm on Facebook, The Shift Witch. I'm kind of all over the place at Shiftwitch. You can find me at all of those different places. My email is theshiftwitch@gmail.com. And tonight I'm offering that reduced rate of $35 for the intake session for coaching. You can also find out more about the belly dance and yoga classes I offer. I also do moon card readings and sound healings with my crystal singing bowls, if that interests you as well. Thank you all so much for coming, for sharing openly. Thank you very much to our hardworking ASL interpreters. I really appreciate you being here. And thank you, Laureli, for hosting so much. I hope to see you all again another time.
Thanks so much, Shift Witch. All right, Sally.
Hi, I'm Sally. I am a intuitive tarot and oracle card reader, as well as a psychic medium. My business name is Sally Spiritual Guidance. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram. That's my name on there as well. My email is mamasallyspiritgirl@gmail.com. I offer a variety of different readings on my Etsy shop, which you can purchase outside of Etsy. I have an Etsy shop because some people are more comfortable getting readings there, but any readings that you see there, you can just message me and we can set up a payment through Venmo or PayPal for the same readings. There's a variety of different tarot card readings there, ranging from 1 card to 3 cards to a full reading. I do mediumship over Zoom, and I also do a tarot reading over Zoom if you want more of the interactive. There's some people that are a little introverted, so they like to just kind of send me their question and I send them the answer. And then there's more people that are interactive and want to be a part of that reading. So I do that over Zoom as well. It really just is up to you and what you're looking for. I really enjoy my mediumship readings. I enjoy connecting people with the spirit world and their lost, the loved ones that have been crossed over, just to bring the healing and to just feel the connection with the spirit world. So that sometimes comes up in my tarot readings, and tarot comes up in my mediumship readings. It's all a matter of what you want and what you're looking for. I can pretty much cater it any way you want. And that's all. Thank you all for coming, and thanks for having me. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the future.
Great, thanks, Sally. And I'm Laureli Shimayo. I'm an intuitive eye reader and a body psychology coach. I read the energy in your eyes to help you better understand you and make great choices that support you and really, I think, supports everyone. I'm able to help give you advice about your career path, what organization to work for that will see and get you and want what you provide and be a culture that works for you. I can help you understand other people in your life. I can help you choose which people you want to have in your life in terms of work or in terms of romantic relationships. I love to do conscious online dating. I also help hire people that are great for the role, for the team, and for the culture, using my eye readings and a bunch of the body psychology work. And really, it's all body psychology, right? So what's expressing through our body and what does it mean? And there are all kinds of tools here for helping shift and open and allow our energy to really flow through and be who we are so we thrive. And I'm at LaureliShimayo.com. My name is spelled LaureliShimayo.com. That has links to my coaching website, the website that has information on my eye readings, information on all these MeWe fairs, and the calendar for all the different events that I do is on that website. And this has been the MeWe Awakening panel. Thank you so much for being here with all of us. We have a lot more events coming up. I put those in the chat, and just for example, tomorrow we have our second practice circle. There are 4 different practitioners that we all have exercises to help you open to your own intuitive gifts. And yeah, some of us are going to be on that one tomorrow. And then other upcoming events on Sunday, we have a panel on animal communication and healing. I think we have 10 practitioners on that one. It'll be a wild, crazy party. And then coming up on the 29th, we have a panel on Beltane bonfires. On the 30th, we have a panel on career, jobs, education, and life purpose. We like sold out on that one. So many questions. We like, okay, got to do another one. And then we have another practice circle coming up on May 1, if you can't make the one tomorrow. And May 2, we have a fair with about 18 practitioners and just more and more events. So thank you so much, everyone, for supporting us to be able to do more and more. Our website for all the events, you can just go to jointhefair.com or joinmeweonline.com, where you went tonight to get the link, and you can see all the upcoming events now that they're all online. And then hopefully in the fall, we'll have some in-person events again. And then if you go to mewefairs.com, that's MEWEFAIRS.com, you'll see all the different events we have in all the different cities throughout the Northwest. So thank you everyone so much for being here. Thank you interpreters for helping make this possible for Thorne to be here and to reach so many more people. Appreciate you all. Thank you everyone for holding the space. We all do this together. And thank you so much, Christina and Carrie, for your questions, and you're willing to go deep and play with all of our answers. Thank you, practitioners, all of us doing this together. All right, and the link is in the chat again. And I appreciate people jumping in and saying goodbye. And then if you want to give us feedback, the link to the form is right there. And if you want to save the chat and all the information on the practitioners, just in the chat, go to the 3 little dots, click save chat, and you'll have all of the chat. And this will go up on the YouTube site soon. All right. And if you want to unmute and say goodbye on the way out, we'd love to hear your voice in the space. Feel free if you'd like to do that. And yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And who's in the picture? Oh, Baron Woof Woof.
Sorry, not sure who's. Yeah.
On my screen, on the picture on the screen is my stuffed animals, Baron Woof Woof.
Okay, yes, great. Lovely to have them here again. Yeah, thanks everyone.
Yeah, good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And practitioners hang out and we'll have a brief chat about tonight. Yay. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, Lorelei.
Good night. It's lovely to see you. Love to have you here. Hi, Pamela.
Hi guys, Sharon.